Apparently, you're not connected to your video is not connected. Okay, it's on pilled right now. Guys, can you guys see me? I'm looking at the chat right now. Can you guys see me? It looks like we're on pilled now.
Okay, good.
It's
All right.
on. It's on now.
Was anybody hearing me earlier? Because I was
think
covering
your video was off or something.
Okay.
Some
Are
reason
we
your
live?
video.
5x5. Okay. Marshall's Law. Yeah. Hey, Marshall. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, we're live. I've been covering the stuff. I don't know if anybody heard me. Did anybody hear me? Yeah, we were watching. Okay.
Everybody could hear, but they couldn't. The video wasn't on.
The video wasn't playing. Okay. All right. Getting back to
I'll check the other ones. Keep going, man. I'll check the other ones.
Okay. I'm not going to. Yeah. Well, no one told me this. I didn't know.
Well, I didn't know what's going on either. So
clearly, something is going on.
Okay,
maybe
it's working on YouTube. Is on YouTube. Is good.
YouTube is working. I don't know why it wasn't working. You just came on Rumble, so there was some type of pause. Okay, was anybody hearing earlier about the show that I was discussing? Could you hear me? Can anybody hear me?
I think I could hear you and I could see you.
Yeah, but that's not
people
you.
In the chat were
Well, I'm directly talking to you. All right. Moving on. So we talked about the American pause. I mean, we talked about what's going on today. Today has been a really tough day, and I'm about to blow my top because nothing is working. Okay.
Rumble is working fine too.
All right, that's great. Well, I just missed a large segment of the show, so I'm not going to go back.
Transgender, whatever. Go ahead.
No, it's an Afghan national, foreign Afghan national. I'll cover it. I'm not going to go through it again because I guess I wasn't talking. Please start over. I didn't hear anything. Oh, man.
It wasn't that much. I mean, it was everything you're saying now.
Well, I guess nobody heard anything. So we're just going to move on. Everybody heard about the shooting today. I'll just cover it again real briefly, is that we had the shooting today and foreign national was ID'd. 2 National Guardsmen were shot. Okay. They're in critical condition. Many news outlets already predicted that they were dead, like Axios. So what happened is that we heard from Kash Patel that this guy came out around the corner, shot them. They shut down Reagan Airport. They shut down a lot of stuff. Bottom line is 2 were in critical condition. They caught the guy. He was shot, injured. He's brought to a hospital. He's an Afghan national. The FBI now is looking into this as a terrorist situation. Will initially investigate the shooting. They will take precedent over there because this is a federal crime. Officials said the suspect used a handgun in the attack. The motive of the shooting has yet to be determined, and I'm not going to play this anymore. So the bottom line is that's as far as we know. That's as far as we got up to. I had other stuff, but apparently it was removed from X. Let me see if I can play this. Okay. Breaking: ABC just blamed Trump's administration. I just want to show you. Now, the narrative that's coming, okay? The narrative that's coming as we move on, all right? Because I'll get back to the show title because apparently no one saw it. Breaking: ABC just blamed President Trump. Yes, I called it months ago. French fry events around major holidays. Blame President Trump's immigration, police policies, and stance on Israel, Hamas for the reason of military law enforcement. So they're already now in the mode to blame President Trump.
Will turn to whether these guardsmen were specifically targeted. If that's the case,
of course they were.
It would fit with what we've been hearing from law enforcement officials for a number of months now, that some political flashpoints in the country, whether that's immigration policies by the administration, the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict, even amid a tenuous ceasefire, those kinds of flashpoints have made people in uniform, be they military, law enforcement, government officials, people in uniform, have increasingly been targets. And that is going to be one focus of the investigation going forward, Kira.
So they're already blaming President Trump, but now we know there's an Afghan foreign national. So clearly there's some ties to some type of terrorism. Okay. Now, if you didn't hear the early part of the show, America's Pause Time, that's the title, a great mugshot fail. Kash-In, pipe bomb update, flying Cesspool. We'll talk about flying on the friendly skies. We'll talk about American Pause Time. We'll talk about the great disposer of events. That's important as well. Fanny fails, so to speak. We'll get to that. But I just wanted to cover. I was trying to cover this, but apparently you guys missed the segment. Let me just continue on showcasing you of what's going on. So they caught the guy. Look, if he's a terrorist, off-site the guy, blackwater him. I mean, honestly, torture him. If this guy is a terrorist, you want to find as much information. He's not talking. So I don't know what we're going to get out of it. The Keystone cops are in charge. It's not going to be the MPD. A news comes out. Color Revolution. Slotkin told America the National Guard under Trump might start shooting citizens. So what do you think was going to happen? Today, 2 Guard troops were shot near the White House. Her reckless claims are putting troops in danger. So Senator Elisa Slotkin, as I call her for the CIA, warned on NBC that the Trump's National Guard deployment was illegal and claimed troops might fire on Americans. Here you go. Rhetoric that directly undermined loyalty and discipline in violation of 18 U.S.C. Code 2387. Her message echoed the seditious 6 TikTok urging enlisted personnel to disobey Trump. Now 2 National Guard troops have been shot, almost dead. They're in critical condition near the White House. Military officials say politicized fear-mongering is painting uniformed services members as threats, making them targets. Look, I said this a while ago, all right, that this type of nonsense was going to continue on into the blue city state fiefdoms. You know why? I'm going to tell you why. Because they want a civil war. They want President Trump to pull the lever and invoke the Insurrection Act. And they should be careful, because be careful what you wish for. It's not going to end well for them. It's going to what? Crush them. They will be arrested. Sanctuary cities are illegal. The executive orders have been put out to showcase they're in violation of the law. It's not even just that. They're harboring fugitives, harboring terrorists, many other different things. They're proactively involved with what? The subjugation, and interference of what? President Trump's federal orders to arrest illegal criminal aliens. Slotkin's fear tactics blamed after National Guard troops shot near the White House. All right, listen to that. You've heard this, but we'll play it again.
People in uniform, military, get nervous, get stressed, shoot at American civilians. It is a very, very stressful situation for these law enforcement and for the communities on the ground. So it was basically a warning to say, like, if you're asked to do something, particularly against American citizens, look at these videos.
They put a target on the back now, and now they're activated. Yes, the color revolution has been going on for quite a while, but now you're seeing it. And I said a while ago, you had over 1,100 cases of incidents where ICE agents have been attacked, 1 or 2 that were shot. I don't know if they were killed per se. You have many instances of all this stuff that is taking place right now. We are moving closer and closer to the end zone, okay? And what does that mean? That means calling the ball, all right? Where President Trump calls the ball, pulls the lever, and it's game over. And how this is going to be activated, where it's going to be activated, is where it's going to be, I think, subjugated to, all right? Chicago, L.A., San Fran, many different parts of this country that needs what? A fucking asshole cleaning. Yes, it does. It needs to be cleansed, all right? Because these areas are broken. They're corrupt. Mayor Bowser came out today, and she's resigning, by the way. She's resigning. She will be stepping down. She's not running for her 4th term. I wonder why that is. I think D.C. is going to be co-opted in some way. It's going to be enveloped as a federal state. They're going to have state police involved there, or federal troops there. They're going to involve. They might toe in the MPD as we speak. But my concern right now is that what is taking place that no one is talking about is that their rhetoric from the seditious 6 has now led us to this level. And now there is no choice. We're not talking about Pete Hegseth pulling the lever and saying, hey, look, we got to go investigate. We got to go and recall Mark Kelly. We got to go and what? Charge him with sedition. He has no choice. Forget about the Secretary of Navy. Pete Hegseth have to do it. They're sending 500 troops now and violating, going over the order. Apparently a federal judge, another one, injunction, tried to block more troops, and now 500 more are coming in. They're going to disregard orders left and right. I think we're getting to the point when President Trump invokes this in some way. He's not only going to suborn all these different types of injunctions. He's basically going to say, look, we're going to move forward, and then we're going to talk about habeas corpus, and we're going to get to all these things. The only way you're going to be able to arrest these people is that you remove the habeas corpus in this matter. That's the only way, where you don't have an injunction and where these unlawful acts of judges willfully just throw around the Constitution like they can do everything because they were illegally put there to begin with. And that's something we need to talk about, Marshall.
The problem, part of the problem is the National Guard are not really prepared for this type of thing. They're weekend warriors. They're not really. What I think should happen is Hedgeseth, instead of just calling more National Guard, which are more weekend warriors, why don't you just enlist or bring in some special operators and make them National Guard? Swear them in as National Guard. Put these guys in the badasses in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, you need some tough guys. And it's not that these guys aren't doing their rules of engagement are horrible. They don't carry around weapons.
Well, no, the media was questioning and asking if these people shot back. Was there a response by that? Because the media wants to jump on that and say, oh, the National Guard shot back and shot at this. Okay, I believe that was so, but we have not understood that in some way. All right, so there's going to be a discussion about that, and the media is going to paint this picture. You put them out there with no weapons. Now they had weapons. They were armed, and they repelled borders, and they're going to make a big thing about this. I'll get to it. It was on the Monument Lawn, where the Park Service had the actual helicopters blocked so they could get these guys to the hospital right up.
It's right on the mall in front of the monument.
So the only way to save these guys' lives to get the helicopters on the Monument Lawn and send them to the hospitals because they were in critical condition. This is pretty bad stuff. I mean, it's sad in some way. I mean, we're covering this. I didn't want to really cover so much of this because it really breaks my heart. But I have to tell you right now, we need to pray for the families and stuff. If you missed some of it, I don't know how I can go back because I was covering a lot of stuff. I just going to have to move forward, and you'll have to catch up with a lot of other things that maybe we will weave back in and out. So National Guard shooter was identified as an Afghan national. So there you go. Trying to resuscitate the life. So we're going to see what the FBI says. We don't know anything else other than what Kash Patel said. Basically painting the picture is that this guy is not cooperative. We don't know if this was a planned attack. Was he paid to do this? Who hired him? Was this a lone gunman scenario? Well, that's what they're pushing in some scenario. But that's the argument of how they're actually making this discussion. Let me show you this. Let me show you. Where's this? Where's the art? Oh, I guess I don't have it. Oh, that's unfortunate. I had a couple of other things and stuff about this, but I guess we're just going to move on. Yeah, so Rift TV had this one, and they went into in depth. They were one of the few ones of the channels that came out with really good information. They didn't jump the gun. They were covering it live. See, now they blacked out the picture, but the picture in certain areas weren't blacked out. See, they were doing a good job. President Trump said the people or person who did this are going to pay a high price. Yeah, they're going to be executed. They're going to be executed. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to heal this guy. They took him to the hospital. They're going to extract information. If you're going to get any information at all, you're going to piece this together and what? And then he's going to get the death penalty. All right, military tribunal, and then he's going to be executed. Probably. He should, especially if these two people are dead or if they die. I mean, it's pretty sad in some way. We were at this point. I thought I had more in this that I was going to pick up. I guess, so that's what happened. X blocked. So what happened was X was blocking a couple of articles and stuff, and I was not able to get them. I don't know why. I guess there's a lot more stuff that's on here that's coming out that will move on. False flag by Bagels. It could be. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if what we could say about this. I mean, obviously this was an attack. The guy was caught. We don't know anything more than that. We don't know if, because a lot of people were suggesting in some way this was, a trans shooter or somebody of that. I don't think anybody has any idea. I think people were shocked to hear that it was an Afghani foreign national that was illegally in this country, was he a terrorist? Was he activated in some way? What does this mean? What's going on? You have to consider what's happening right now, because I'm going to show you right now that Trump is ending the war in Ukraine. And what does that mean? What does that mean in general? That means that a lot of people are going to lose out on money. Military contractors, military defenders, like all these different things. Breaking: Trump ends the war in Ukraine, surrenders to peace deal, Russian biolab, CIA trafficking, elite money routes, and now at risk for full exposure. Let me cover this a little bit. I'm not 100% about this article, but I like some of the suggestions that they're making, and you can infer your own points of view. The elite are furious. The war is slipping out of their hands. Trump just detonated the most dangerous weapon against the global cabal, and not the fake paper peace. You see it at the UN or Davos. This is real. Boots on the ground withdrawal, end of funding pipeline, dismantling the machine kind of peace. Ukraine-Russia conflict was built from day one as a banker war. Interesting. Remember, I talked about how you have BlackRock, Blackstreet, Vanguard, all these different companies that are involved with the war, funding the war, that want a piece of the land, the fertile soil. From 2022 on, trillions in IMF, BlackRock-backed funds funneled through Ukraine like pressure washer and on overdrive. Every dead soldier, every bombed apartment block, every refugee was an invoice, a receipt for the elite profiteers. And now it's ending. Trump confirmed it. And what we tried to cover for weeks, the administration is at its final stages as a peace deal. Now, let's just take this at face value, that the reason why that you're going to see this engagement is not just a twofold prong that's going to happen inside. We're seeing not just the color revolution, we're seeing the turncoats inside the government, agent provocateurs inside the intelligence apparatus. What are they doing? They're freaking out. They're screaming, holy hell. Not only that, because this war is coming to an end, but he's doing other things, not just simply to end this war. He's doing other things to clean up the city-state fiefdom of corruption that is just basically, it's so like deep and so wide that it permeates to levels that we cannot even imagine. And it's operating through city states, governors, mayors, and what have you, because they're captured. And they're captured by who? Maybe cartels, maybe intel agencies and what have you, because they're being blackmailed, extorted, and otherwise. Let's move on. The war that kept the global currency prison intact. The war was never about borders. All right. The Donbass was just a spark. And what the elite feared most was Russia, China, and Trump aligning on the one thing that would destroy their stranglehold. How interesting that we're trying to kick out Iran, China, and Russia, maybe the deep state that are embedded in Venezuela, as we're hearing left and right, dissolving the fiat central banking system. Ukraine was the last firewall. The cabal funded weapons, biolabs, and debt chains through Kiev to keep Russia isolated, and America bled dry. And now they've used the mainstream media to paint it as humanitarian aid. But Trump's team, operating in real time, command from the restored White House, has just bypassed the firewall. Steve Witkoff is already in Moscow meeting Putin. Army Dan Driscoll, Abu Dhabi, holding secret sessions with Russian delegation. Zelensky is prepping for U.S. visit to finalize what already has been signed in principle. They didn't want this leak, but it's done. CBS was cornered into admitting the truth. Even CBS, a long mouthpiece who has now been captured, taken over by Paramount Plus, Skydance, mouthpiece for the deep state, had to confess Ukraine agreed to Trump's peace deal. A U.S. official confirmed it. The Ukrainian government accepted the terms, only a minor wording formalities. Marshall, your thoughts about this? I'm not going to go into it too more. I got all these other things, but if you want to comment.
My spidey senses tell me that somewhere in the back of my mind, this is connected to this shooting today in D.C.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. This is not about what what's taking place with the National Guard. No. This is basically a heads up. All right, this is the deep state, this whatever this is, intelligence state that is coming after Trump and saying we're going to use our intelligent operatives, so to speak, our exposed operatives like Slotkin and Kelly to come out there to foment this stuff as the Brown Revolution continues on, the color brown revolution continues on, while simultaneously behind the scenes, this is the soft underbelly of the discussion. 30 plus underground biolabs operating under joint contracts with DARPA, Child trafficking routes from Mariupol through Odessa were monitored, not shut down by Western intel. Hunter Biden's Metabiota contract connected directly to one of the labs near Kharkiv. Satellite uplink facilities tied to NATO were running next-gen surveillance on Russian soil. 13 U.S. senators across the parties had shell company accounts in Ukrainian banks tied arms laundering. Do you know 47 of our congressmen and senators are resigning? They're either not running for re-election or resigning come the 2026 election, and it's increasing as we speak. Trump's peace deal doesn't just end the war, it blows the lid off of everything they buried under 4 years of bloodshed and deception, and that's why they're scrambling. Trump's administration is fully operational. Don't let the fake optics fool you, all right? I think there's a lot more than that. I don't want to go into the peace plan. I think I covered it many times. If you watched me on Thomas's show yesterday, I think that we're getting the gist of what this is about. What we're seeing right now with the two critically injured National Guardsmen, okay, was part of the false flag attempt operation to undercut President Trump's viability to put National Guard troops, maybe even pull the Insurrection Act, to pre-buffer, militarize, and mobilize National Guard troops throughout the United States for something to happen, and I believe something will happen, and I believe whether he pulls the lever or not, it's going to be on the timetable of the reaction that we're going to see. Are we going to see more of this stuff, Marshall? Probably, most likely.
They don't want to lose that money in Ukraine.
Right.
Because that is a huge amount of money.
Right.
Massive. And all the trafficking of the young women and girl, whatever. This is, to me, I really do feel that this thing that happened in D.C. today was the senators and the congressmen that did that, the seditious six that did that video, that was all planned out because they knew that Ukraine was getting ready to end. Trump had ended it, and they created this video. Then they built up to this. Then all of a sudden we get this shooting. And they don't want to lose. That is a ton of money for these people. And it's like a deep state or globalist temper tantrum. So, it don't be, I know you get it, Brett, but people out there don't realize how connected so many of these things are.
Right. I think that the peace deal, the closer it gets to, which Zelensky signed off, it's already done. Yeah, you're going to see false flag attacks everywhere. I do believe so. And it's not necessarily part and parcel of what Trump's plan is to pre-mobilize the military all over the area. The country in the sanctuary city state fiefdoms already been captured. There's a good swath, 9, 10 states already been captured. And the point is about liberating them in a lot of ways. And then using the CIA assets, the Mockingbird media, the talking points. I mean, Kelly's going to be made an example, Mark Kelly, senator from Arizona. He's going to be made an example. The UCMJ will convene. I do believe that they will pull the lever to recall him. And then what? He'll be charged with sedition. And then this will set the example. As for Slotkin and all these other members of Congress, I don't know if they can do anything about that. I mean, that depends on how the law is and how it's situated, and if Pam Bondi has the chutzpah to go ahead and do it. Because they're not formally tied to that, but if you're saying sedition and treason in some way, and there's a military tribunal that is compelled in some way, and since you are a senator or sitting congressman in some way, you could be tried for that as well. I don't think that the UCMJ can be extraordinary, or just the idea that you can't compose a tribunal and put people on that are inside the government but not part of the military and try them for these crimes. I think that that's completely a misnomer, and I think it's quite possible that these things have been going on for a long time. The question is how this is going to, let's just say, unfurl out. How does this go? How do we get there? It has to start with Kelly and see what happens. That's why Slotkin was walking back a lot of nonsensical stuff. Tonight's show, the American Pause Time, I was talking about that it's the great disposer of events. I didn't want to come out so swinging hard. I've been angry about all this stuff. It's Thanksgiving Eve, so I wanted to just discuss the great disposer of events in some way with God's supreme being, giving thanks and glory to our bounty, thanking us for our us living and breathing the best we can as American citizens and enjoying what we have and stuff. And I wanted to have that mantra. And I'm sorry that the show, I don't know why it didn't connect. For some reason, it didn't connect. So I apologize for that. Let's just say hello, Thea. Thank you for the cookie, the shades. I vote game over. Thank you for the can. Like, share, and subscribe. Drop us a gold pill. If you have comments, questions, or concerns, you could drop us a Rumble rant over here on Rumble. Hit us up on YouTube. Let's hear your comments, thoughts. Please subscribe over there. If you went up at marshallkofi.com/surfdog74. I think a lot of the stuff that we're moving forward in this, I just want to give, let me just start with this right now, because this is what I want. And I got so hot and heavy because I'm so pissed off that this thing wasn't working. I want to start this. I really wanted to get into this. I was reading this, and this was a great article from the Daily Signal. I want to see heads roll. Yeah, I want to see heads roll too. And I want to get back to that. But I really want to talk about America's pause time. Thanksgiving, the quintessential American holiday. This was such a great article in the Daily Signal. I wanted to share it with you. Gratitude is an essential tribute of the people who are happy and living purpose-filled lives. Sometimes success leads to gratitude, but it's more accurate to say gratitude breeds success. And ingratitude brings failure. This is a common biblical theme, best epitomized in the book of Exodus. Shortly after God, through Moses, freed the people of Israel from slavery and brought them out to Egypt by parting the Red Sea, the people began to grumble at Moses. Would that not have died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the meat pots and ate bread in full? For you have brought us out into the wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. Ultimately, it took a generation of wandering in the wilderness for the people's grumbling to stop. Only then, in the spirit of gratitude, were the people's hearts prepared to enter the promised land to live in freedom. The act of thanksgiving, this is what I'm trying to get to, is the antidote to bitterness and envy. And so, without diminishing greater religious significance of holidays such as Easter for Christians, Yom Kippur for Jews, I contend that Thanksgiving is the most important, quintessential American holiday. I think so. It's classic. It's consummate. It's archetype, and it's America's pause. This is what it is. When Americans pause and humbly reflect on the innumerable blessings that God has granted them, it bodes well for our nation's future. As George Washington stated when he recommended designating Thursday, November 26, 1789, as National Day of Thanks, it's a day that we may then all unite in rendering unto God our sincere and humble thanks for his kind care and protection of the people of his country. Of course, of human history, few people have had as many or as much to be grateful as the typical American does today. Our blessings aren't just material, but Americans do enjoy a level of wealth and prosperity that is matched by few around the world. Riches that would have been unimaginable by most people in the past. With modern medicine, typical American lives are more than twice as long as Americans of Washington's period. America's Constitution protects us from the many kinds of tyranny. While opponents of liberty have gradually chipped away at our constitutional system, the Constitution continues to act as a bulwark against federal encroachment. This is where I want to get to. I want to move down here and stuff. I want to show you this because this is something I want to say. Instead of following politicians down paths of resentment and strife, let's instead follow the tradition of Thanksgiving that Washington began. In the words of the fourth president, James Madison, in his 1815 Thanksgiving proclamation, no people ought to feel greater obligations to celebrate the goodness of the great disposer of events. That is the God, supreme being, okay? The destiny of nations than people of the United States. I thought it was an excellent article. I want people to understand is that America's pause time, not past time, is a reflection point of America's greatest, I think, national holiday. All right? It is Thanksgiving because there's so much to be thankful about. And it let's just say, shadows religious tenets and roots. It's so much more bigger. And it actually is defining, I think, what it says, the quintessential idea of what America has become and what America is and what America is unfolding to be. Regardless of all our problems that we have right now, currently, and what has been done to America in some way, this is the time, all right, to give pause, to give thanks, to remember how classical, how traditional, and how, let's just put it this way, unforgivable in some way that we can look back and change history. But history is what got us here to this moment, and we are doing our best to change the trajectory of what we understand what America is. I know Christmas is a national holiday by Truman, all right? But I look at Christmas something so far more outside the box, outside the pale. Other than July 4th, which is America's birth, this is our national holiday. This is who we are. We celebrate it with the gift of friendship, the gift of love, the gift of bounty, and the gift of freedom. That we're able to weather the storm in any condition. That is Thanksgiving. And that's what we should be thankful for, Marshall.
Yeah, and the part in that article that you just read, which is really sad because the graciousness and the gratitude that we have for what we have, for everything we have, that we're gracious and we are grateful. The sad part of it is that I just said is the liberals don't think this way.
No,
they don't have they can't see through the woods and catch themselves and say, you know what, I've got this, I've got a roof over my head. I mean, my gosh, I could be living under a bridge. So the gratitude and the graciousness is really the big part of it, in my opinion.
Yeah, and President Trump puts it really forward. Religion is coming back to America.
Praying. The churches are coming back. I don't know if you've been reading that story, but religion is coming back to America. Some people say, oh, why would you mention that? To me, that's a big deal. We have more people praying. The churches are coming.
I think that's a good thing. He's doing that yesterday and was saying that when he was pardoning the turkeys. And I think that's important to understand. The roots are based into that. Washington realized that. Madison realized that. But Thanksgiving, okay, completely separate, but derived from how the Constitution was created in some way. The sacrifice that people put into it, based on the tenets, okay, or the subtenets of our Christian roots, all right, it's bigger than that. It rises bigger than that. It is the actual, I think, in some way, the phoenix of the United States. What it represents, it symbolizes in some way, not the birth, but the unity, all right, that we should have for one another during a time that we feel that we should give thanks for us living in this country. I think it's so much more, and I really wanted to go this route, but we got caught off with flying bullets and nonsensical stuff of what has taken place because of these two National Guardmen that were shot. We pray for their families, and it's sad on this day. I don't know. It breaks my heart in some way that we have to go this route, but I have more to go. And, I'm having...
I just wanted to bring back the church bells, the bells.
Yeah, I mean...
When I was a kid, we used to hear the church bells all the time.
Right, I know. But those days are over. It's not... those days... I don't know if those are ever going to come back. I really don't. I think the religious foundation of the archetype of... Catholicism and the Vatican and stuff, I think they're going away. Even though more and more people are coming back to God, back to Jesus in some way, that the grassroots of this are going to be totally different in the future. I really do believe that, and it's not going to be the same as we see it now. I think this is just a buffer that people are returning to. I think it's moving into something else. A lot of people like myself who don't like organized religion, don't stand for it in any way, and don't feel that a lot of those tenets that are out there by subgroups of, like the Catholic Church in some way is not representative of me, at least to a certain level these days, and how I feel the Pope and the Vatican are. So Thomas Sowell quotes, "The View reveals that rage rooms are now rising trend among women in the United States, with customers paying $100 to break things with baseball bats." Now, this is funny.
There's a popular trend in the United Kingdom and here in America also called rage rooms. Anybody ever been to one? Yep. Clap if you've been to one.
Oh, geez.
No?
I can't be.
This is here. Such a mellow crowd. How about at this table?
No, I have.
You customers put on goggles and use a baseball bat, as you can see, to destroy everything in the room. Bookings are up 150% compared with last year, and 90% of the customers.
I wonder why.
So why do women seem more enraged than men? Because there's a popular.
Wow. I mean, if that's not a clear, let's just say, put it this way, indication is why we need to repeal the 19th Amendment, I don't know what is. And I say that loosely because I know there's a lot of females in the chat. All right, but I can tell you right now, I mean, what is it about liberal women? You know, my wife seems to think because she's, you know, she's not liberal, but she's not like those people. But she seems to feel something had changed during COVID. And I think she may be right. I think the jabs have affected and altered people's mindset in a lot of ways. It wasn't about the physical. It wasn't just about the physical lockdown. I think it's also about the actual jab per se. And I do believe it changed people's, let's just say, mindset and structure and foundation and understanding. And I think that, you know, they're lacking a lot of different, let's just say, mental defects. Their health is debilitating. There's a lot of other suspects that are involved in this, but you have to really go forth and say, was it as bad as it was in Trump 1.0? I'm not really sure. It was bad, but it's kind of kicked up to another level in some way. And you'd have to think that some causal connection between the vaccines, mental, let's just say, breakdowns in some way, or mental distress in some way, have been effectuating a lot of people in this matter. And I think that it's not just that. I think it's education. It's watching the news. The matrix is crumbling. They can't handle
media.
The social media is breaking people's mindset. They're addicted to it. They can't move on from it. They can't move on without it. So there is so much that's involved in this that I think that we're starting to see people actually just wither and die away. And it's sad. Yes, we're going to need the idea of moving forward of mental institutions, as these top psychoanalysts have come out on many news platforms that Trump derangement syndrome, IDS, and many other instances of people freaking out that can't handle life. They can't handle anything. There are people are attacking ICE agents for removing criminal legal aliens. There are people saying, yes, I want white people to die, and they're white. I want to die. What is happening to people? What is happening in England? What is happening in Canada? Why are people becoming so anesthetized with the ideas that I just want to wither and die away? What has become of these people?
And most of them are women, Brett, because they're more like George Orwell said, that the women will be the catalyst of kind of the downfall of the West, because they're the gobblers of slogans, etc. And I've been saying that this jab has really has affected people's mental.
Yeah, I think so too.
I've been saying it on this show for a number of times, and my old man told me years ago, because I never got married, and I grew up in the burn the bra phase of the world of the time. And I was talking, I said, what's going on with these women? Why can't? And he said clearly to me, he said, women today do not know their role. Mm-hmm. And I that's not a put down to women. No. Because men have played the same role from, as far as I know, most men out there are still working and making money and doing their role. It's just that the left has convinced so many women with this feminist stuff that you don't need a man. It's not about not needing a man. It's about knowing what you're here for. Animals do it best. Mm-hmm. What do animals do, Brett? They meet, they greet, they reproduce, they become mates, and they raise a family. Mm-hmm. It's not complicated.
No,
and
it's
what
not.
Are we doing?
Jones' mom says over here on Rumble, I pray every day for my enemies, which right now is in our government. At work today, he or she came in, had to pull that look off the beard. There are some that can't be saved. No, I mean, obviously, there's going to be a lot that can't be saved, but it's not up to us to save them. Okay, I'm not here preaching that we have to go and save people. I'm not. That time is past.
What are you going to do?
It's over. You can't. You can save yourself, your friends, and your family. That's about it. If you can. But at this point, it's time to step up and realize what's coming. A lot of these people that are effectuated or affected in some way by the toxins, as from birth control, the
True.
HPV virus, all these different, let's just say, vaccines in some way have mentally scarred and damaged people. The idea in some way that they're listening to social media or mainstream media, or all these different streams, all right, of collective consciousness, that they feel that they're fomenting some type of opinion that is obviously not the opinion that most people perceive, but the way that they're actually collecting this in some way, that to really think that, hey, if I go out and harm an ICE agent, or I shoot a National Guard, and somehow I'm defending my country. See, they're completely convinced in some way. And this is the problem with the Mockingbird media. This is the problem what Slotkin and Mark Kelly has said. They have the low EQ, the emotional intelligence that a lot of these people lack, the lack of self-awareness, the lack of anything, all right, that actually, let's just say, begets them at this current moment, is where we are right now. There are people that just can't handle life. They can't handle anything in their life at the moment. And what do? They react. They act out, and they act out violently. We're seeing it all over the place, and I'm going to cover a lot of that. We're going to walk into the great mugshot fail. This is about Fannie Willis's failed attempt with the Georgia electors, and we're covering this. I got a couple more, so I want to play this out.
We are following breaking news just into CNN. A Georgia prosecutor officially dropped the historic racketeering case against President Trump and others for attempting to overturn the 2020 presidential election. I want to go right to CNN's Kara Scannell. What are you learning, Kara?
Listen to this.
Good morning, Pam. Yeah, this new filing in from the prosecutor who had taken the place to look into the Fulton County investigation of Donald Trump and others has filed a motion with the court saying that they are not going to move forward with the case or dropping the charges. What he filed, what's known as a nolle pros, and that means that in theory, because if the statute of limitations hasn't run out, a case could be refiled. But he attached to his filing about a 20-page statement explaining his rationales for why he did not think that they should move forward with this case. You'll remember this was the case that began with Donald Trump making a call to the Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, urging him to find the votes. And then District Attorney Fannie Willis brought this historic investigation and filed those racketeering charges against Donald Trump and dozens of others for interfering with the 2020 election. She was then disqualified from the case because of an undisclosed romantic relationship with another prosecutor. And that is how this case now fell into the hands earlier this month of a prosecutor who was assigned the job of trying to find someone to take on this case. He said that he couldn't because there were too many conflicts, and he took it on himself. Now we're seeing the results of that, and that is that he is saying that they are not going to move forward with this case. And he summarized it in part by saying that he made this decision by examining the case file, examining what the jury had been presented, and also considerations of the law. He says that, contesting an election is not unlawful, but and that is part of the reasons for why he decided not to move forward with the charges at this point. But again, this is a nolle pros filing, meaning that they're dropping.
You hear what she said? Contesting elections, okay, is not illegal. And back in September of 2022, inside the they changed the law, the Electoral Count Act. What is it? 1870. And they put it in the defense contract bill. And they changed that law. So they made that the vice president serves in a ministerial position, has no authority in some way, and changed the rules and guidelines about opposing a contested election. And the fact is, since that law went into place and they were forced to do this, this case was dropped because of what she just said. That was part of it. That, hey, you can contest elections. There are certain rules now that are on the books that were passed by Congress in September of 2022. And since those laws are in place, we can't go after the president. And for future pretense, there's a possibility that any type of scenario like that, remember, the governors of each state, unless there is legislative control by the body Senate inside state legislatures, they will be operating the guidelines about picking electors. So if you have like 26, 27 Republican state governors, state legislatures, it'll be between the governor or the state legislature who will be handling the electors for this slate in this matter. And how interesting that law was passed a couple of years ago in the National Defense Authorization Act. And now that we're hearing this, she comes out and says, well, there's nothing wrong with that. It's all legal. Congress just passed this law not just too long ago. In fact, you could have did it back then, but it was kind of iffy. It was a little gray. But here, it's now indefensible or defensible in this way, however you perceive it.
The case right now. In theory, it could be revived if the statute of limitations doesn't run out. But of course, Donald Trump is still in office for another 3 years. Pam, this is the last of the criminal prosecutions that have been hanging over Donald Trump as he entered the White House. The only conviction that he faced out of the 4 indictments was the one in New York for the hush money payments. And that one he is appealing. Pam?
Well, that's not necessarily true because the Supreme Court of Nevada basically gave a pushback and said that the electors case that's on the books when there was appeal are still active right now. So I don't know what's happening in Nevada per se, and if they're going to go after the electors in Nevada with this. But the way the ruling is and the way the law is, in some way, you'd have to take it up in this manner. And there's so many other things that are out there, but this is a big slap in the face of Fani Willis. The corruption of that exposed her, that brought down the DA in Fulton County. It was really bad. And you know what? What it does is it shows you how rotten and corrupt the system is. Because now that they can't bring any charges, and it shows you they had nothing to begin with, this goes on to a lot bigger discussion that Brad Raffensperger, okay, at the time the Secretary of State, could have fixed this problem. He chose not to do it, and it led to this scenario. Georgia politics, really bad, really tough. I don't know what's going to happen with the governor, Kemp. He might be running for president as well. I don't know what his position is, what he's going to be doing in some way. But these two, okay, who are not really MAGA or Trump friends per se, this could have been handled a long time ago, but they walked into this trap. At least Raffensperger allowed this to take place, and here we are at this situation, Marshall.
Yeah, and Raffensperger, that is an interesting name. So I'll leave that there. And Kemp as well. Georgia is so screwed up, Brett. Mm-hmm. And this also, that's the last thing she's got that she had, Fani.
Right.
That's all she's got. It's all over. Her bullets are gone. So this should have been all over media today before this shooting.
The shooting is now basically,
but before the shooting happened, it should have been first thing on the,
It was. A lot of people were talking about it, but again, it got pushed to the side. It's official. This is the only thing Fani Willis criminal prosecution and Trump help accomplish. This is funny. It's official. The case, Georgia is dead. What Willis case against Trump accomplished? Nothing that the Democrats were hoping for. Judge Scott McKay has officially dismissed the Fulton County criminal prosecution. I mean, look at the mugshot. Fani Willis took President Trump's mugshot, and all she did was help him get reelected. That's exactly it. This whole case, okay? And think about it. Willis, with some help of Bragg, Letitia James, and Jack Smith, unleashed lawful efforts that ended up putting Trump back into the White House. I believe so. I believe this is exactly what put President Trump back in office. So when people want to bitch and moan in some way that, we're not at that time. We're not there yet. We're not quite yet humming. President Trump has laid the foundation for the last 10 and a half months of what? Getting money to come into this. So by the first and second quarter of next year, this baby's going to be humming. I believe so. I got something with Scott Pacent. I think he's 100% right. But this was the basically the soft underbelly, okay? The ingredients inside this cake to bake and cook so for President Trump to get elected. Everybody was watching this. Everybody was seeing what was happening. Everybody was talking about the mugshots. Everybody's thinking, well, if you could do it to him, you could do it to Obama. You could do it to everybody else. And that's the point. We're all sitting back and saying, oh man, this is going to be brutal. And it was brutal. We were able to see that they were able to go after a sitting United States, a president of the United States, a former president of the United States in this manner, right, and do all these things. What do you think they could do to you? And that was the point. And many people have walked away of understanding that. They have not rationalized it in any way. They have not proportionalized it in any way. They think that it's over, that we were lied to in some way. You haven't seen anything yet. What you're seeing right now is the reason, all right, that the veil has been lifted. If it wasn't for him to walk through this so you could see it, you would never know what would hit you in the back of your head when they started taking your civil rights away. And every moment and every day, and First Amendment was going bye-bye. It was going bye-bye. Rest assured, if the Dems take back the House after the midterms, it'll be nothing for but 2 years worth of Trump impeachment, palooza, all based on whatever charges they can fabricate. That's the other point. That's the other rationale. All right. The other discussion is right now, if we lose the House, you know what's going to happen. They will what? They will make sure they impeach President Trump. They will find every way to convict him. They will try to do it in the Senate, bribe, cajole, blackmail. They will do everything, use their media assets, the CIA assets, every opportunity to what? Make sure they get it. All right. Are they going to win the House? I don't know. I don't know what's going to, I don't even know if we're going to have an election. And I'm putting that out there right now because I believe something else is afoot and we're going to see it very soon because the closer we get to it next year, the harder I can believe that we could if we don't resolve 2020, Marshall.
Yeah, and this may be why that Trump and Pam Bondi and all of them are kind of nonchalant about all of this stuff.
Right.
Because it probably, probably doesn't even matter.
No.
Because the whole thing is going to shift into, and then like you mentioned with Scott Bessent, I do believe that when we get into the second quarter next year, it's going to be a rocket ship. And there's nothing they're going to be able to do.
Well, I talked on Thomas's show. I was on yesterday on True Reporting. And I said that the reasoning of explaining why things are still high, we're paying 50 cents on every dollar for city, state, and local taxes. That's about 18, 19 cents on the dollar, plus another 32 cents on top of it from federal laws at the gas pump. So you're paying 50 cents on the dollar. So if you look at every scenario we're in, we're 50 to 60 cents higher on a gas rate, depending on what state you're in. And so if you just remove that and see that per se, then you can understand it. So if you're paying $2.70, realistically, your gas is about $2. If you're paying $3.60, $3.70, your gas is about $3. All right. So the tax of where you're located, all right, state is where it's going to be. And California and New York, it's going to be higher because they have all these redundant taxes, multiple taxes. And here's the other thing. Even Thomas pointed out, I talked about distributors. And I said, pretend I'm a Scotch guy. Yep. All right. And I work for, let's just say, I'm not going to name a name because I don't want to get in trouble. Just say I need a single malt company. And I'm selling this to a local restaurant, bar, or whatever, and trying to get this in there and stuff. All right. I'm selling it at a certain price to them. But they have to buy it at that price. And in order for them to make a profit, because you think about it, a $7.50 liter, okay, you want to get about 300% markup. And think about how you do the math on that. I don't know if anybody understands that, but I'm just trying to say is that you're going to have to actually price that at such a level that your return is greater than what you purchased it. Do you understand that? That's the same thing when you look at food distributors, meat distributors. Yep. Okay. And fruits and vegetables, all the distributors that go to Sprouts, that go to Whole Foods, that go to Trader Joe's, all these different purveyors that shop around and sell their stuff, where they get it from these big companies, all right? Wherever it comes from in this way, they're selling it at a certain price. And they realize they have to make a return on these prices, so they have to sell it at a higher level. So is it really Walmart or Target or Sprouts or Trader Joe's or Whole Foods or Publix? No, it's the go-betweens. It's the exact same thing with the pharmaceuticals, the middlemen. That's who was raising prices so high. That's what President Trump was able to co-opt and control and remove the middlemen with drug prices. And that's why the prices are going to come down. And I think in some way, you also have to give it some more time in some way, because I do believe the understanding with the idea that we're paying about $58, $57 a barrel of oil. That is a small amount in the grand scheme of things, because it really has less than a 10% connection to gas per se. Because you got to think about how much it is to refine the oil, how much it is to set it up, how many people are you going to pay to set this up in some way, where are you going to get it from, how are you going to do this. So really, it's about the laws that are in place around the states that are actually drilling and the refinement per se, and how much is that's going to cost. So that's really not going to change the way you're going to fix gas. Moving on. Democrat D.C. mayor who clashed with President Trump will not seek re-election. Okay. Bowser was out today speaking, letting the chief of police from the major case, D.C. police out there. Bowser, who claims summoned a violent mob, dispatched them to U.S. Capitol, announced that she will not seek a fourth term. I find this very striking because she is not serving a fourth term. She's just not running. And I do believe that the idea that D.C. will be brought under the umbrella of a federal district, not a state district, a federal district, that there's a possibility you could federalize the actual capital. And I think that's where it's going. You might, and I've said this a while ago on the show, that you might disband the city council. You might disband the mayor's office. You might not need that per se. You probably keep the police force on and federalize that. That's what's going to happen. And it'll be under an umbrella situation where there'll be a federal, let's just say, task force that will be making sure that DC is protected and will not have this secondary or tertiary body of pavilions of people that are out there, like, seeing in Chicago with these city mayors and city councilmen and stuff. There's going to be something different that's going to change, and it's going to affect the life, let's just say, the lifeblood of people living in that city per se. And I think this is a good thing. Bowser announced her decision in a video posted on social media where she did not mention Trump. What a shocker. Directly addressed her steps against the city. She applauded the cooperation of the residents to make the city better. Bowser has served 3 terms since being first elected in 2015. Look, she can't run. There's too much pushback, because it proves that if they actually were doing their job for years while she was there as mayor and the city council, that they could have curtailed the crime. But they didn't. They allowed it to happen. They were paid off. There's money in the game to what? To help not incentivize cleaning up your cities, but to decentivize, the actual crime. Allowing it to happen where people are getting paid for money that's coming in for the police force or all these other things to do. All it was doing is what? Hamstringing the actual local municipalities. She was at the helm for the city and has been a long reliant on federal government. The district granted autonomy through a limited home rule passed in 1973, but federal political leaders retained significant control over local affairs, including the approval of the budget and laws passed by the D.C. Council. I find that very striking. I wonder how that's all going to change in the future, Marshall. Her departure is a lot more impactful than people are really understanding. I don't think people really understand what this means in this way. Now, are we going to have another election? We're not hearing that. We're not hearing that. She's not running for a 4th term. That doesn't mean there's going to be a mayoral election. We don't know what's going to happen with the home rule, all right, with 73. The agreement passed in 73, but federal political leaders retain significant control over local affairs. What happens is they just pull it all back, and we don't need this D.C. council in some way. Or maybe we're taking the reins away from these significant political figures in the federal government.
Well, I do believe the way, and especially the way she looked today.
Yeah.
That it's not only that she's out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, she's out. The whole system in D.C., as far as the mayor and the council, I think that's all out. That's all out. It's gone, and she knows it. They fake the numbers. They fake the numbers, the crime. They call it something else. They call it they don't make the numbers.
Bowser.
Yeah, they fudge the numbers, Brett.
Right.
And then another thing that they've been doing across this country, which I've been going crazy over on X about. I didn't bring it. I think I brought it to you once or twice. Is that what they're doing? Is any crimes that happen, especially violent crimes, they're all they show the pictures. They're all Hispanic or black, and they're calling it white.
Yeah,
they're white guys. There's a bunch of white guys doing all this shit.
Oh yeah,
it's another. The whole thing Yeah, I do agree with you, Brett, that
Well,
the DC council and mayor.
I think it's going to be, well, I mean, the thing is that if there's federal authority that really has I mean, is that going to be retooled? Because I don't know what's going to happen in the DC council, but President Trump has hinted to the idea that we might have to go back and completely remove the mayoral
Yeah,
and then we'll have a federal, let's just say a federal district that's going to be operating. They'll be under protection of the federal law, and that you'll probably have to federalize the police force in that way to maintain authority. And who do they answer? I want to see who this council is going to be. Who are the federal officials that they'll be answering to? Will they be answering from Homeland? Will they be answering from the DOJ, FBI? This will be interesting on who, because we're not really sure who they are in this matter. So keep this in mind. So the judge, Teresa Molina Gonzalez, who left Lawrence Reed out. This is the guy, before he lit a woman on fire, despite prosecutors begging to keep him detained and 72 prior arrests, basically admits she's a DEI hire and rules based on how people look.
Office of Inclusion, Diversity, and Equal Opportunity.
The first time I came out on the bench and the deputy announced, all rise, the Honorable Judge Teresa Molina, the whole courtroom stood up and I was all excited. He's walking out there and I saw an Illinois State Trooper. He was African-American. He had a sleeve covering his tattoos and he was standing there and he looked at me and he nodded and I knew what that meant. And so I looked at him and I nodded back like, that's right, we're doing this. And it felt so good. It felt so good. So to me, a fine of $354, which is our normal no insurance fine, that's a lot of money. And some of the judges that I work with came from money, so $354 is no big deal. But to most of the people that come to my courtroom, it is a big deal. And so I always offer them the opportunity to do community service. Being a Latina in the office, people would tell me, like, don't you feel like you're prosecuting your own people? But it's true. There were a lot of, defendants that look like me. However, I had a chance as a prosecutor.
You hear that? She just admitted there's a lot of defendants that look like me. What does that say? We'll get to more.
To make a difference as to what cases come in. I had a chance as a prosecutor to decide what offers were appropriate. And so I always offer them the opportunity to do community service.
Really? She never puts anybody in jail or fines them. She offers them an opportunity to do community service. And what community service are they doing? And for what plea are they taking? Amazing that we're seeing this. Let me cover this because this goes into what President Trump was talking about when President Trump was ripping the fat bastard, Governor Pritzker, and the corrupt communist mayor, Brandon. Chicago train burning shows how too much leniency, too guilty is cruelty to the innocent. It's not just cruelty to the innocent. The system is set up in place that the judges allow this roach trap of people to come in and out of the courtroom, all right, with no bail, no fine, nothing to hold them there after they commit a murder or two, or maybe more, and let them walk. All right. And then thus they'll go out and rinse and repeat. The recidivism rate, I told you yesterday, is like 58%. The crime between black and brown onto white has shot up almost 60%. And they know in these courtrooms with these fake judges, these DEI judges, these criminal legal judges that shouldn't be there, they know once they get out, oh, they're in here for murdering a guy. All right, that's white. Oh, they're going to come out and do the same thing. All right, and I'm going to get to the Irina law. So the Bethany McGee, a 26-year-old woman found from Upland, Indiana, is fighting for her life with horrific burns she received while riding Chicago CTA Blue Line train on November 17th. Her story is incredibly similar to others' incidents of the late that have grabbed national headlines. Lawrence Reed, a 50-year-old man with an astounding long criminal record, allegedly doused McGee with gasoline. The incident was remarkably similar to the one that took place in New York subway a year ago. In that case, the alleged assailant was an illegal alien. Just like the recent case of the murder of Irina Zoritsko, a woman who was stabbed to death on a Charlotte train, the suspected, Chicago arsonist has a rap sheet almost hard to believe, 72 times. Thompson Center of Government building with liquid setting it on fire as Governor Pritzker was due to speak at the news conference. excuse me, this is remarkably, Reed didn't even serve any jail time. He was only given probation. How is this possible? Prosecutors want to keep Reed locked up. The report noted, but the judge in the case let him go. So the judges are there in some way to make sure that they're proffering, they're making their money on the back end to incentivize more crime, to make crime legal in their justification of letting these people go, while incentivizing these people to commit crime against white folks in some way, all right, because they feel in some way that we, all right, have taken away their lot in life and that we should pay for reparations of being slaveholders. That's their main gist. That's what they think. That's how they act, but it's even worse than that. There are certain judges that are out there that have memos going around. They're getting paid money from NGOs and Soros paid back groups to what? To continue on this mantra, to foment this type of civil war in this matter. All right. I don't know how this is going to be, let's just say, resolved in some way, unless you get in the Insurrection Act and federal troops go in there and just arrest these people. You're going to have to waive a lot of different rules in some way to make sure that you can bifurcate the legal standing. Suspend habeas corpus is probably the only way. And I think that is most likely what's installed. I just think that when you look at these scenarios, there is a war out there, and we're at the center of this. What's taking place in London, what's taking place in many other cities, in Ireland, what's going on with the foreign invaders in Australia, many other countries and stuff. There's a war on for white people, and it's coming to an end. We're pushing back, and it's being exposed. Let me show you Tucker Carlson on Sean Ryan. This was basically, I think, what it is, set this whole thing ablaze. And people seeing what the plan is, the clergy plan. All right. When you understand about killing white Americans, white American citizens, and white people in general, Tucker Carlson's most explosive claim. And I think this set everything off, everything in motion. We are in the midst of a race war. We're in the midst of an immigration, alien invasion war. We are in the midst of an internal fight between communists, okay, and non-communists, people who love the republic, who love this country. We are in the battle for a very long time. Yes, I've been saying a race war, a civil war, how it's being fomented, how it's increasing in some way. I told you that we're going to get these types of scenarios that's going to happen, a false flag attack onto National Guard. It's going to beef everything up, and we're leading to the civil war that is eventually going to happen, and it'll be in 9 and 10 states. And it's going to set off a paradigm of domino effects that's going to affect everything and everyone. The question will be, how are the other states going to react in this way? Because you're going to make sure that, let's just say Florida, that certain provisions are put in place that, you know, hey, look, not everybody is target practice, okay? But because there's certain things that are going to be in place that we're going to see, I wonder how much that's going to be offset in cities that aren't going to be affected from this. Keep that in mind and make sure that you're following the law and not doing anything stupid. Oh, well, they're having a civil war in these city-state fiefdoms and stuff. Let me go out and just kill a bunch of people. No, that's not going to work. That's not going to happen in some way. All right.
One thing that I have noticed, because it's impossible not to notice, is that majority white countries are becoming non-majority white. And that's a result of policies that are deliberate, that are not popular with the populations of those countries, and that people are discouraged from noticing in it. In some places, they're arrested, like in Great Britain. And it's not happening in one or two, but in every single one. Every white country on the planet, except Russia, is on the road in very short order to become completely different from what it was 50 years ago. Targeting people on the basis of their race for destruction is the reason we say we hate the Nazis. And yet that's absolutely happening globally in every white country. Australia, New Zealand, Great Britain, the United States, and Canada. Joe Biden's standing up and being like, the main problem in America is white racism from white men. I can't wait till this is a non-white majority country. The elimination of white people, one.
That's amazing that he said that. I mean, that was part of the conversation that we're having. Marshall, your thoughts? I got more to go on this. So,
yeah, well, the article before that you mentioned, those judges are not. Most of those judges do not have law degrees, Brett.
No,
they are appointed people that are just schmucks. Mm-hmm. And this whole thing with the white genocide, it's white genocide. When they say, what do they call it? multiculturalism or whatever.
Yeah.
It's actually white genocide
Yep.
because it is happening all over the world. You look at the numbers, it's ridiculous. White people need to understand your race is, you need to treasure
You have a
your
target
race.
on your back.
Yeah,
Okay. They don't
yeah.
call you a fascist for a reason. They want to make sure that you're
You're
assigned a
white.
fascist because you're white, and then they will use that excuse to kill you. That is the whole point. That is the predicate of how they operate. And they use these bifurcation of blacks, browns, other groups, all these illegals, internationals that are inside this country to replicate that, to duplicate that in some way, and to foment the more, let's just say, mass hysteria that's taking place. But it's not mass hysteria. It's actuality. It's reality. All right. We've had more white people killed in the last 5 years than we've had in 20 years. Think about the numbers. We're at 60%. We are at war, and it's not going to get better, okay, in any way because of all the sanctuary state fiefdom controls on the Second Amendment that you can't walk around and carry guns. That's why all the other states are good. There are certain provisions that are in place right now that are controlling people from what? Doing things that they shouldn't be doing. Florida doesn't tolerate this stuff. Doesn't tolerate this at any level. And that's why you have stand your ground laws in many different states, because the bottom line is these types of things. You can't go out hunting for people, but you can sure put people down if they get in your face. Just in, Democrats officials in Charlotte County are frantically preparing for Irina's law to take effect in 4 days. They had to pass this law, worried tons of criminals would start flooding the prisons. We're bracing for Monday, as you know, when there's a hurricane or a storm. What the F? So this is the admission. Criminals are all over the streets, and they just left them there. Good. Start filling up prisons. Maybe American lives will be saved. They had to do this in Charlotte. This is a disgrace.
Hurricane or a tragic storm that is coming.
Irina's law kicks in on December 1st. Lawmakers passed it after Irina Zarutska was murdered on the light rail train back in August.
I believe that the state legislators had a good intention. I believe that when they wrote the law, they were hearing from so many people who were horrified.
The massive bill addresses several topics. It limits a judge's power to release offenders accused of certain violent crimes. The sheriff says that will increase a detention center population that is already near capacity.
Stack of bunks is where we have to put people on these bunk beds, and their families will call in and say they are sleeping on the floor.
County officials expect officer and magistrate workloads will increase. They say they'll have an idea. They'll see the impact of the full law in the next 3 months.
And I think by the time we get to the end of February, early March, where we are at that point is probably going to be pretty close to where we're going to be for the long haul.
Irina's law adds funding for additional district attorneys. It does not add funding for anything else.
We as a community have a very difficult job. We're forced to make some very difficult choices moving forward with respect to our priorities.
Look, if you've been arrested 50 times for murder, rape, assault, and what have you, you should be executed. I don't fucking care. I'm at this point and stuff. You don't have enough room because we're not building enough of these prisons because they come all over the place. Here's the problem, okay? Start executing people. You got person with a crime in Chicago, 72 acts of violence. You shouldn't be living. You're a violent problem. If you can't lock this person up, then this person should get the death penalty. The guy that killed Irina got 11 years. I think he got 11 years to life or something like that. The point being and stuff, the recidivism rate that keeps going up and up and up because you allow these people to get go. People will notice that you can't solve crime by letting people go. But you can't also fix the problem with crime, okay, by keeping people locked up. Because A, there's not enough room. B, state crimes and federal crimes. There's got to be certain levels that are passed. If you commit, what happened to 3 strikes, you're out? I mean, seriously, 3 strikes, you're out. We put you down. We're going to have to start changing the laws in some way to actually reflect the criminal violence that is taking place. And those laws should be structured based upon how violent offender you are. And if you are the worst of the worst, you should be executed. Rape, murder, torture, you name it. Attempted murder. If you're doing it 10, 15 times, what does that mean? You're never going to stop. And if you can't keep the person in jail because, you know, you're going to parole them and there's not enough money to fund it, it's cheaper to what? Get a bullet and end it. We don't need the gas chamber. We don't need electric chair. Firing squad, done, finished. I mean, at this point, the system is so broken in some way that these city-state fiefdoms cannot control what has been unleashed onto their citizenry because the governments have failed them. They have been paid and bribed and cajoled to look the other way. It all has to come down to one simple point. If you cannot keep these people incarcerated in any way, and that the state governments are not willing to fund anymore, and that the federal government has to take this over. I mean, they're building prisons left and right, and you're going to tell me there's no jailing from this? You have private corporations that are setting up shop to incarcerate all these people. At one point in the 90s, we had millions of people in jail. I mean, and look at the crime rate. Look, I'm not saying I want to incarcerate everybody, but at this point, if you just look at the violent offenders that are out there that are just roaming the streets, the monsters that are roaming the streets, and you have multiple felonies on your that are violent, that are murder, attempted murder, and rape, you're either has to be. I think honestly, we're going to have to go back to 3 strikes you're out. You're executed. Because you're not going to stop. You have violent gang members have murdered how many people? They're serving less time in jail than actually pedophiles. It's never going to stop, and it's not about changing the law. It's about changing the system and the mindset and removing the judges and making sure that the people that are out there are not defending the same people we're trying to incarcerate and kick out of this country that snuck in the back door, that are trying to murder you and your child and your wife and your family. Canada has executed 90,000 people. Executed when I mean executed. What have they done, Marshall?
All I can say is,
what did I say about that?
What's that?
You weren't listening. Canada has euthanized 90,000 people
because of they volunteered to die.
Right.
I get that. You're right. But when you look at that video that you showed and you go back and you look at it, who's running the joint?
Right.
Look at all those people who are running that place. A bunch of DEI fucking, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about. Look, I get you, Brett. Execution, fine. I get it.
We're going to have to step it up. I mean, I know that's kind of harsh to sound, but you can't have people that are out and about. If you can't keep them locked up, there's only one alternative. You got to put them down. As rabid dogs as they are, you have to put it down. We're probably going to move to a minority report scenario. They're already talking about thought crimes. I mean, think about a surveillance state we're going to have with AI. You don't think we're going to have like a Judge Dredd scenario or something in that way? The only way to stop violent crime is either we control and we just border off California and put all the criminals there like they do in Escape from LA, or we do that to New York, which is not going to be feasible. What are we going to do? We're going to take up one part of the state and just make it a giant facility of the most lawless criminal people, or we start what? We start executing people because we have no choice. Thea gifted the shades. Thea donated 600 gold pills, 330 gold pills. And again, thank you for supporting the platform. I wish everybody else would want to partake in helping out. Like, share, and subscribe. Drop us a gold pill. Hit the red pill button. The like, share, and subscribe. If you like the show, you like the platform, you can help us out on Rumble as well, or you can help out Marshall. Ko-fi.com/surfdog74. I got to get to this next article.
You could also send them to CCOT down in El Salvador.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, it's not just sending them back to, I think in some way, to Venezuela or all these other places. Look, we're dealing with Venezuela for a lot of different reasons, not just China, Iran, and Russia. There's other things that are going on there with transnational corporations, and all the stuff out there. What are we doing there? I mean, we don't really have we know just as little as we know what's going on with Ukraine. What I showed you about Ukraine and what Ukraine is really about. This is the other thing Tucker Carlson talked about. Approximately 95.8% of all Maid state sponsored suicides are white. Again, another description of breaking down that we are in a white genocide, that we are being murdered at a high rate.
Have all been trained to ignore this amazing thing that's never happened before in history, where one group of people is being destroyed, and of course have internalized that and are now enthusiastically participating in their own destruction and the death of an entire group of people. And it really is, like, if you go to Great Britain, it's the whites who can't wait to kill themselves.
Why
It's
is
in Canada, same thing. They have the MAIDS program, which is state-sponsored killing of its own citizens. Physician-assisted suicide. No, it's the state encouraging people to kill themselves. And it's one of the leading causes of death in Canada is this MAIDS program.
Is this these are the machines that these?
It could be machines. It's,
Jumping
the
little
state is
machines.
licensed to kill its citizens. The citizen just goes in and said, I want to be killed, and they kill you.
See, in Canada, I just want to die because I'm depressed. I don't have any ailments. I just want to die. Kill me. And they easily take a life, an innocent life, a life that probably needs help. But these people that are roaming the streets and murdering people here, we're doing the opposite. We are completely lost in this mire where the real people should be executed on the streets. And I preach vigilantism all the time, because if they're not going to do the job and the police know they're not, what's the point of arresting these people? Because they're just going to be what? Let go. Someone has to stand up to them. You know, when people say, well, we shouldn't declare the Insurrection Act. It's the only way. It's the only way. It has to be done. And whether you have to arrest these people or shoot them live on the street, it is what it is. We have no choice. These controlled city operations of fiefdoms, these communist sanctuary states, they're not going to get better unless you arrest the higher ups, unless you suspend habeas corpus and you go through, okay, like a hot sword and you slice it through like butter. It's the only way. And if people repel borders, you put them down. You put them down. You have to do this. It's the only way. This is going to continue because of the call to arms by this brown shirt revolution that is taking place by the traitors inside our own government are now going on live TV. You had Al Sharpton today on CNN blaming President Trump. This race hustling SOB, this monkeypox infested scum goes on CNN. President Trump's fault because he brought in the National Guard. That's what they're doing. They're capitulating in some way that we're going to walk back this and say, no, it's on you now. They got all their assets ready, deployed to what? Attack President Trump, say, well, you brought out the National Guard. You provoked this. Instead of like in what we're seeing and what's actually happening. That's why Mark Kelly needs to be prosecuted. And then we need to go forward with all these other traitors inside our government that are acting in this matter. Because if you don't, you're setting an example, you're letting this happen, and it's going to continue on and get worse. And I do believe President Trump's talking points today on Truth Social really summed it up. The animal that did this, and now it's an animal, it's a terrorist, it's something else. It's far worse than you can imagine.
And basically for any reason, mental health problems, financial problems, a lot of poor people are just like, I feel like I'm a burden to the country. I want to go die, and the state will kill you. It's one of the leading causes of death in Canada. So the numbers came out yesterday. Well, who's doing this? So Canada is about 65% white, something like that. It's completely changed. Heavily South Asian and Indian, Bangladeshi, Pakistani, and lots of other peoples. You know, it's massive immigration into Canada. But who's being killed by the state in Canada? It's like 97% legacy whites, literally. And what the hell is that? And of course, these are people who have been told and now believe that like they're a burden to society. It's selfish to have children. They've been totally brainwashed into mass suicide. And of course, none of this is affecting my family. We have the opposite views. We're not proud to be white. We're not white because we chose to be white. We just happen to be born white. So it's nothing to be proud of. It's just a fact. On the other hand, targeting people on the basis of their race for destruction is the...
I disagree. I think from the very premise of what he's suggesting, we need to showcase that and showcase that we are completely different for that very reason.
We're superior.
We're superior. Yes. And we need to showcase that. We need to exemplify that.
Reason we say we hate the Nazis. And yet that's absolutely happening globally in every white country. Australia, New Zealand, Great Britain, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, England, the United States, and Canada. That's an accident? It's not an accident at all. And no one will say anything about it. And why wouldn't you say something? Like, what is that? If that, by the way, if that were happening in India, like, we got too many Indians here. 1 billion Indians? That's too many Indians. We need more Africans here. So anyone Indian, like, here's that we can kill you because you're a burden. You just not have kids or take some SSRIs and just benzos and weed and just zone out until you die or whatever. But, like, you're bad. I would be like, that's the sickest thing I've ever seen. Like, why do we hate Indians? I kind of like Indians or whatever. You would just be like, why would we want to do that to them? What did they do wrong? You know what I mean? I would just think that. And that's happening to whites globally at such a speed, and no one is saying anything about it, that I've decided, because I just want to tell the truth about what I notice, that I'm going to say something about it. I think it's totally wrong. I think it's totally evil. Again, it's exactly what we said we hated about the Nazis, and we're participating in it. And I'm going to keep saying that no matter what they say. And they'll be like, oh, you're a white supremacist. No, I'm not.
No, but that's the reason. They get to call you that. And they get to use this agitprop nomenclature to assign you as a fascist, and thus allowing them inside their sick, twisted head to basically put on blast that, hey, I can kill you because you are that. Because I told you that you're that. And you show me that you're at. That's what it is. And that's the sick, twisted world we live in. I've been saying this for a very long time. We've been in a civil war, de facto, what have you. It's going on. We're in a race war. You don't want to see it. That's your problem. We're in an illegal criminal immigration invasion war. We are in so many different things. And you don't want to recognize it. Call me a racist. Call me that. Very soon, our bloodline, our heritage, and our paleness will be the change we all need, the future that will be who we are very soon, because this quelling will be brought down, will be put down. People will have to realize in some way they're not going to take it anymore. The uprising will happen very soon. And those who are so brainwashed, so lost, that want to protest for illegal criminal aliens and stuff, let them live with them and see what happens the next day when they rob and kill you and rape you. They have been so brainwashed. We've been so divided. This is our only option. And if you stand at this level, they're going to kill you. And you have no choice but to defend yourself. And I think a lot more. Marshall, your thoughts?
Yeah, I've just a side note. I've got more information on this that I will send you for maybe we could use on Friday. I've got charts and numbers and all that. So, you know, now I want to add and say this. You know, it's very simple. There's a lot of, I want to just say that there's a lot of jealousy and envy that's out there. They're jealous and they're envious of white people. So they want to destroy you. Yet they're wearing and using and driving everything we fucking invented.
Right.
All right? It's not complicated. Look it up. So look, you know, the bottom line is we know also, Brett, that Asians a lot of Asians have a higher IQ than Caucasians.
Right.
I'm not mad at Asians for that.
No.
But people that have a lower IQ than us happen to be mad at us. And they also don't like
because they have a low
Asians
EQ. They
That's
can't
right.
control they lack emotional intelligence.
here.
They lack self-consciousness, self-awareness. They lack a lot of stuff because they can't control their anger because of their situation. And their situation is what? They're uneducated. They don't have the proper tools. Yeah, it's a lot of that. Look, here's another problem we have. Massive fraud exposed. Billions stolen in Minnesota for the Somali scam. 80,000 Somali Minnesotans. This is 80, but we have 80,000 criminal, illegal Somalians living in Minnesota. Again, another plan to dispatch with the white population inside of Minnesota. Prosecutors claim Somalians living in Minnesota stole hundreds of millions of dollars from fraud. From a fund that was supposed to be used for feeding hungry children during COVID. Wow, what a shocker. They just released one guy who stole $7.2 million, and they released him. Somalian. Prosecutors claim Somalians living in Minnesota stole hundreds of millions of dollars. Can you imagine that? Again, all right, and Ilhan Omar calls us the fascists, calls us the scum. The fraud scheme also involves Somalian fraudulently obtaining funds through autism and service centers. I'm not going to play this. Massive frauds exposed all over the place. Chris Rufo, we're talking about billions of stolen. No, ICE has to go in. Asha Farhan Hassan, age 28, was charged today by federal information with wire fraud for her role in $14 million in autism fraud scheme. Hassan was charged with participating in feeding our future fraud for what she received $465,000. Look, we need to go in and sweep through this area. That's why the retooling SNAP. That's why we're doing all this. All this funding needs to be redone. Look, these people have to pay for it. We need to go through and see how many people are legit inside Little Somalia of Minneapolis and all these other different areas where 80,000 people are living in this country. We need to go through and see, are they fraudulent? Did they sneak in this country? How did they get in this country? We have to go back to the Obama days when Obama was putting there to begin with. This is a problem. This is another example. What I'm saying is that when you have this coupled with the Muslim Brotherhood and the executive order President Trump put out, no one talks about so much that we have a Muslim Brotherhood. Everybody focuses on Israel, and it's all Israel. What if Israel is allowing this and pushing this? All right. But the Muslim Brotherhood, another separate terrorist organization, infiltrates our government in many different areas, whether through Qatar, whether through Saudi Arabia and other areas in some way. All right. You need to delineate this. But this is an example of what I'm talking about. All right. It's not just the fraud, waste, and abuse and all these different things and stuff. People need to be held accountable. You can't just send the guy in there. He gets indicted, all right, by the actual court, and the judge lets him off. Minnesota is a sizable Somali population. Sizable, small. The TPS program allows Somali nationals temporary legal status to live and work in the United States because of dangerous conditions in African country. My God, it makes me sick. It's time to send these people home. I don't really care. I don't care. I think this is where we're tired of this in some way. I'm tired of looking across the street or all these things that it's not reflective of what I see, because I'm tired of looking in, all right, when I should be looking on a map and saying, that's probably where you belong. In the last several years, the state has faced fraud problems, and notably from Feeding Our Future scheme, which embezzled hundreds of millions of dollars in COVID funds. I'm disgusted. It makes me sick. And we sit back and we bitch and moan about all these different things. But this is what's happening in our country. And they're slowly eating us alive by allowing this nonsense to continue on. And while they try to assault and attack ICE agents on a daily basis, while these white people, these Karens all over the place, that they defend these people. Oh, they have a right to live here. No, they don't. And look, if you got here on a student visa and you're committing frauds or all these other things, you're gone. You're gone. We haven't even talked about the level of people that are there on some green card or some visa or some special whatever notification. You're here and you're committing fraud.
So many of these women, Brett, they have nothing else. They're empty feminists. They don't have anybody, and they don't have anything. Right. So they jump on this bandwagon to give them a good feel, and it doesn't fulfill anything. It ends up getting them killed. What do they call it, Brett? Suicidal empathy. Mm-hmm. Unfreaking believable.
Thank you, Thea, for the cookie. Aloha, Mom, for the cookie. Great show. Great comments. Happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to you. Be safe. Be well. Hope your Thanksgiving is really good. Thea donating 300 gold pills. Wood USA dropping 717 gold pills. Help the boys support. Thank you for the shades as well. Thank you for all your support. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. We're almost done. We lost some time here because I guess the show was not connected properly. It didn't connect. This comes from Chief Nerd. New MIT study finds AI can already replace 12% of the workforce. This is scary, all right? Because when you think about what I was talking about, the idea, the sovereign AI that's coming, all right, that's going to be universally upheld. It's a race for all this stuff. It's going to be a problem in some way. And it's what Elon Musk talked about. I mean, how much of the population is going to be afforded some basic, let's just say, luxury to not work? I mean, that's the thing. I mean, that's what he's talking about, because you're going to have people that are not going to be able to get a job. And so how are they going to live? So we're going to talk about government subsidies while we slowly move out and ration out financial wealth and money, which basically takes away from your freedom. The MIT has built agent clones of 151 million working Americans in order to identify which jobs most at risk years before layoffs hit. Let's hope Elon is right that we won't need money or jobs because work is optional. How about that? Optional? So you don't work and the other guy has to work? Yeah, that's going to be problematic in itself. But I got to tell you right now, the people who don't want to work, we already know who they are. So
study about AI and productivity and just how many jobs could be at risk. Mackenzie Sagalis joins us with that story. Market pays attention to these MIT studies on AI.
Yeah, that last one on 95% of enterprise, adoptions of AI not working out. Now MIT has built agent clones of 151 million working Americans, essentially software counterparts to real people, in order to identify which jobs are most at risk years before layoffs hit. Now, it's called the Iceberg Index, and it uses these agents to map more than 32,000 skills across 923 occupations in 3,000 counties, revealing exposure to AI displacement in every state, not just coastal cities. The report shows that while only 2% of AI-driven wage disruption is visible in tech hubs today, there's actually a hidden layer of exposure that is 5 times larger than what we see today, cutting across industries and geographies, hence why they call it the Iceberg Index. Now, findings indicate that AI can already take over tasks tied to nearly 12% of the U.S. labor market. That's about $1.2 trillion in wages, especially in careers tied to healthcare, finance, and professional services. For lawmakers preparing billion-dollar reskilling and training investments, the index offers a detailed map of where disruption is forming down to the zip code, and crucially, a way to run what-if scenarios before they commit real money and legislation. You've got states like Tennessee, Utah, and North Carolina, also co-authors on this new report, that are already using Iceberg to test everything from new training programs to skills-first hiring rules before they formally commit to policies and spending. Guys?
I'm amazed at this story, Mackenzie, and this money quote that you use, where they argue that we're basically creating a digital twin for the U.S. labor force.
But researchers do stress that this isn't a countdown clock to layoffs. It's more of an early warning map so that policymakers can move money and training around before the shock hits. And so the coolest component of this report is the fact that the Iceberg team has built an interactive simulation environment that allows states to actually experiment with different policy levers, from shifting workforce dollars and tweaking training programs to actually exploring how changes in tech adoption might actually affect local employment and GDP. Tennessee has been the furthest along with this. They've actually built their own AI and work dashboard that tracks occupational exposure and wage effects across the state, and that's helping currently to guide its policy and spending decisions.
All right, well, let's hope Elon Musk is right then, that we won't need money or jobs.
Because
wow. What do you think about that, Marshall?
Well, I mean, if you've got AI and robots doing all the work, I don't know how that would, I don't know how it would work out. I mean, do you need money anymore?
Well, I mean, if we're based on the Star Trek model that we're about to perfect ourselves, I mean, the Star Trek model is is that we don't need money, that we all come to some conclusion that
Yeah.
we're all for the betterment of our society and to better ourselves in some way. Yeah, that motto would fit in some type of idealistic world in some way. But look what it got. They had to wait for a massive war, a third world war, a literal war that destroyed most of the population or half the population to rebuild and cultivate while forging bonds with an alien race in order to rise to the next plateau. Are we already there? Is that what we're talking about? I mean, I think this is so magnificent in some way, though. That's why people are getting scared, because the information about how this fight for sovereign AI, who will wield it, who will protect it, who will use it, will the rights of AI override your constitutional rights? The idea that we're entering in a surveillance state of a great proportion in some way, I mean, it's going to have a lot of control over your life in this matter. Remember, if they take away money and you get subsistence, while there's a good swath that don't have to work and others that do, well, what is the balance there? What's the balance of the scale and stuff? You're only getting a proportional amount to basically live. Are we talking about future technology where you don't need the basic tenets of heating and cooling your home, lighting your home in some way? There's so many other parameters in this that I don't think people are really getting in it. Just saying that in some way. In the future, when you're saying in the future, you won't need money or anything, don't worry, we got you. You buy that? I don't buy that at all. I don't trust that. That scares the living shit out of me. You know why? Because that means there's going to be a corporate-run government control over your life. And if you don't need money, well, how are you going to grow things? How are you going to eat? How are you going to live? What it's going to be in its place? Are you talking a future that you won't need this type of economic solidarity or sovereignty to create wealth management and for survivability? What will be in its place to take that over? They're not giving you the parameters of that. They're just saying that you won't need it. Don't worry about it. You don't have to work. That sounds to me like they're going to euthanize you. That's what it sounds to me. But that's just my paranoia, because I don't trust AI. I don't trust how this is working. I understand they want to get ahead of this. They're expanding on this. They want to go full tilt. That's why the military's involved with this. That's why the government's involved with it. That's why they want to set this up first before we go round robin in the United States and we go global. All right. And if you're not on this in some way, you're going to be left behind. I wonder how much people are going to push back about this.
Well, and your independence is gone.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. Your sovereignty.
Your Bill of Rights. Yeah, your sovereignty, your Bill of Rights.
You're no longer.
It's not going to be necessary.
You can't depend on some outer source.
Right.
I would almost rather go back to being a fucking what is it? What do they call them? The people that grew on their farms. They grew their own a land person that grew their own food and all that. I'd almost rather go back to that.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you want to go back to an agricultural shift,
well,
that's
you take
fine.
care of yourself, and it's just you instead of
No,
this.
I understand that. I mean, I just think that the world. I'm concerned that we're going to end up in some dystopian world. I don't trust some of these people out there in some way that AI is going to make our life better. I think we're moving into the idea that we're ending the truth embargo through AI. AI is going to lead us into that next level. Because yes, indentured slavery. But I do believe that in some way that ending AI will end the truth embargo, because there'll be nothing that they can hide from us, at least to a certain point that's not written in the code. But it also will lead to other avenues, other discussions in some way. I mean, they'll basically tell you enough information that will be built in that you will swallow it and accept it. And then what leads from that? Is this part of the Great Deception? I think the oncoming or Great Deception could be a twofold process between AI and what we talk about, Blue Beam 2, and the alien disclosure, and all these other elements and stuff. Report Doge is still alive. We covered it on Monday, and now they're pushing back because Reuters messed up. They sparked this confusion on Sunday after reporting the Office of Personnel Management Director Scott Kupar, a centralized entity, no longer exists. But the administration official countered that DOGE remains fully operational, with grinding away until its mission of May 2026, which really ends and expires on 2026 of July 4th. Said DOGE is driving major projects across government, improving VA appointment management, integrating scheduling check-ins, notification, after visit support, advancing responsible AI government worldwide through partnership at GSA. The agency is also transforming the non-immigrant visa process to support Olympic and World Cup travel with more reliable, adaptable digital platform. It's basically retooling the surveillance state. I think it's increasing that, supporting 18 million students by modernizing FAFSA system and implementing major student loan and Pell Grant changes. AI is enveloping throughout our government agencies. It's moving through. It's recreating. It's redirecting. I think I never bought the idea that it just went away. It's just because the main person, the architect or whatever it was, the symbol of it is no longer there. And that might be for a reason in some way for this very discussion, that he had to go away. He had to go away in order for this to continue on. While the government shut down, it was a perfect example. They forced themselves into this situation. And then through that, they executed this perfectly. All right. They figured, oh, it's no longer here. There's no more of this AI integration and whatever else is going on. In fact, we cut 700,000 plus jobs per se, or non-essential workers in some way. We furloughed close to over 1 million. We don't know exactly the numbers per se, that they're cutting down the opportunity for these jobs to come alive again in some way. I think they are splicing and cutting the government down. I think more will entail the more and more this unfolds. I think they put this out as a hit piece and underway to undercut President Trump and say, well, this is what we were promised. We were lied to again, and foment hate and vitriol on X. So the influencers will use this as another secondary position to attack us and attack MAGA per se, Marshall.
Yeah, Doge is all over the place. I mean, they've already. There's a chart that I had that I'll bring it up later, but they're in the government agencies. They're embedded. Okay, so secretary department of whatever, they're already in there.
Right.
They're just This is a kind of a misdirect to make people think, oh, well, they're gone now, so we can continue to play our games, and meanwhile they're getting caught, Brett. So they're not going anywhere. They are completely embedded.
No, I know they're completely embedded, but it was the illusion that it was kicked out, it was gone by the idea that Big Balls is out, Musk is out in some way. They were creating this, I think, in some way, this panic inside of MAGA to say, hey, look, another thing that was promised to us, that we're going to clean up our government agencies and retool our government programs and create and get rid of the fraud, waste, and abuse. That narrative that was pushed out by Reuters by quoting OMB personally was a direct attack to, again, as a psyop to put out onto social media so they can attack President Trump and the loyal followers of MAGA, because they want to convince you that, hey, nothing is getting done. It's not real. Don't worry about it. Everything is just falling apart. That's what they wanted to, I guess, create in some way. This is the last conversation. I dropped the pills. Caroline Leavitt slammed by nephew's family for ignoring ICE arrest. How about this one? The White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, has been eviscerated over her refusal to help after ICE detained her nephew's mom. The White House official has gone radio silent since Bruna Ferraria, who is the mother of Leavitt's nephew, who swept up by ICE this month. Ferraria's sister, Graziella de Santos Rodriguez, tells the Boston Globe, Ferrara, 33, a native of Brazil, has lived in the United States since she was 6. De Santos Rodriguez says her sister has been a part of the Leavitt family for more than a decade after her son with Leavitt's brother, Michael Leavitt Sr. They never married, but share custody of their son. There you go. Anchor baby, who splits his time between his dad in New Hampshire and his mother in Massachusetts. If she were to help in any way, if she were willing to do anything to help us, she would have reached out by now. She has my phone number. We have been family for the last 13 years. Dos Santos Rodriguez told the Globe. I understand the policies and how it looks, but I also think when it comes to family, you put certain things aside. I don't care who you work for. A source familiar with the situation claimed that the Daily Beast that Santos Rodriguez was less involved in the Levitt family, saying this individual is the mother Caroline's nephew, and they have not spoken in many years. The child has lived in full-time in New Hampshire with his father since he was born. He has never resided with his mother. However, in 2014, the article about Levitt's brother winning $1 million as a part of the fantasy football competition included him saying that Ferraro was his fiance. He added that they lived together with their 8-month-old son. The family photographed together in the Decade article and the other old photos on social media. I needed the lights to fix back on in my car. Ferraro told a local paper and asked the family immediately for the needs of for the $1 million. So this is a money grab, and we need land for my son's room. Levitt said he planned to spend money by taking Ferraro on a trip to the West Coast. So basically, Caroline Levitt has not addressed the situation, who has since remarried, did not respond to the request. Actually, Levitt, who is not. Department of Homeland Security, Tricia McLaughlin said in a statement, Ferraro was previously arrested for battery and that she overstayed her tourist visa in 1999 when she was merely a kid. So basically, she wants some type of carte blanche to get away because she had a hookup or a relationship with her brother that they have a son with, that they no longer reside together with, and no longer the kid stays with. And they want to put this hit job on her like it's her fault. Well, they're saying, why don't you just self-deport? They kept saying, try self-deport. Tell the club self-deport. To where? Brazil? It's not your home. That's where you're from. They're trying to push it off as a vacation. It's not a vacation. Bruno barely speaks the language. Okay, so where did you come from then? Okay, where did you come from that you in here, that you violated your passport, you overstayed your welcome merely as a kid, you're a tourist visa, and now you don't want to go back to the place that you no longer understand as a previous arrest for battery. See, this is the problem we face. This is why we need to end the 14th Amendment, Section 3, with the natural birthright citizenship. We no longer need these problems where these people overstay their welcomes and you can't get rid of them. I don't care. She's not related in any way, all right, to Caroline Levitt. All right, she's not even the sister-in-law. All right, she's the mother of his nephew that no longer resides with her brother, who's remarried now. And we're supposed to what? Give her carte blanche, go self-deport, reapply, and see if you'll get a visa. I'm sure it'll be fast-tracked. What's the problem here? But the Daily Beast wants to paint out that Caroline Levitt is a monster. It's the law. It's the law. I don't understand. I mean, I think the Daily Beast right now was doing themselves a disservice. They're actually proving the point of what we all see. This is why people get to stay in this country illegally, by greasing the skids or knowing somebody they know that shouldn't be here. She overstayed her visa. She shouldn't have been here, all right, to begin with. And then since she is and she's grown up and had an anchor baby, it's automatically fine. See, this is the problem, all right? They drop an egg, and all of a sudden now they get to hone in on our country and say, well, I had a kid here and stuff, that anchor baby, and they need their mom and stuff. She doesn't even see the kid.
Aloha Mom says it exactly right. She knew exactly what she was doing.
Exactly.
Perfect, Aloha Mom. I mean,
yeah.
Women are not stupid.
Mm-hmm.
All right? I don't care what country you're from, what color you are. Yeah. Women know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. That's for sure. Yep. We know that, Brett. We can all agree. Oh, right? Yeah. That's not a hit on women. Mm-hmm. But devious women can be devious, and they can do bad things. And that's exactly what this lady is trying to do. Bullshit, bitch.
I agree.
Go back to your country where you came from.
Oh, she was swept up with ICE detainee. And no, I don't think anybody's going to come and help her. I think at this point, you're gone. You're gone, and you can reapply and see what happens, in some way. But if the kid doesn't even stay with you, okay, and you're using that as an example to stay in this country illegally, you got to go.
That's even worse.
Okay, that's even worse because the kid stays with the father. Yeah, it's even worse. It's embarrassing.
Deal, trying to milk it, man. That's all.
Yep, I agree. All right, so that's the end of our show. It was long. I know that we had problems, technical problems and stuff. We'll try to figure that out on Friday. Have a great Thanksgiving. Have a blessed Thanksgiving. Remember what Thanksgiving's about. Pray for these. These guardsmen, National Guards men that were shot you know, it's sad in some way, but you know, they're going to have a profound effect of our country very soon, and we're going to need them more than you think. And they're there to help us and protect us. So again, have a great night. Have a great Thanksgiving, Marshall. God bless. We'll see you on Friday. Ciao, Bella, everybody. Be well, be smart, be safe.